All right. So let's create our very own dice rolling app. So before we start, we can go ahead and close any open projects that we have. So we just file and then click close project. So we're going to create a new project and it's going to be an empty activity. And let's call our application dice roller. I mean, it's not a very creative name, but at least it's a good description of what this app is supposed to do. Okay, so I'm fine with all my other settings here. So I'm going to hit finish. Okay, so it took a while to build the project, but now it's finally done building. Now let's go into our design view. Let me maximize this. So this time around, I'm going to remove this hello world text so that we're starting everything from scratch. We have an empty view over here. So the first thing we're going to add to our view is a button. So we'll put this button somewhere around here and we'll add some constraints so we can center it horizontally. Okay, there we go. And then we constrain it to the bottom. Let's add some padding or margin at the bottom. We'll make it 60. Now the next thing we're going to do is change how this button over here looks. So right now, our button just says button, but I want the button to say roll instead. So what I'm looking for is the text attribute over here. And now I'm just going to change that to roll. So this is the button that the user is going to click whenever they want to roll the dice. And the next thing I want to change is the color of this button. So first I'm going to change the text color. So I'm just going to search for text. This is the attribute that I'm looking for, which is text color. And if I click that, as you can see, I can select a specific color. For me, I'm just going to do a dark color, almost black, but not quite black. So a grayish color. So now that that is done, I'm going to also change the background of this button over here. Right now, purple is not the best color because I can hardly see the text here. So I'm going to search for background. Okay, so this is the attribute that I'm looking for. It is called background tint. And for that, I'm going to select a white color. So I can click this icon over here and then just move this to white. So that's fine. So the next thing I'm going to do is change the overall background here. So right now the background is completely white, so it's hard to see this button over here. So I'm just going to make the background a shade of red. I'm going to select the constraint layout, which is the layouts that our button is inside of. This time around, the attribute that I'm looking for is background. So I'm going to change the color of the background by clicking this icon. The color that I'm going to pick is something like this. I think this should be fine. And if you want the exact color that I chose, you can just copy or use this exact same text. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is add an image to this view over here. But before I can add that image to the view, I need to make sure that it exists in my project somewhere. So I'm going to click this project to open this file explorer here. And under res or resources, I'm going to open drawable. Okay. So this is where I'm going to place the images that I'm going to use for this app. So you should have these images available to you as well. All I'm going to do now is copy all of these images here, and I can just simply drag and drop it onto this drawable folder here, and then hit refactor. Okay, so now all of these images should exist in my project. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is add the image to our screen over here. So I'm just going to drag and drop that image view. And I'm going to select the Let's Roll title. Okay. Like before, I'm just going to center this horizontally. So I'm just going to drag it to the left and then drag this. And by the way, if you can't reach the right side, you can always click the plus icon here to add the constraint to the right. Okay, so there we go. And I'm also going to add the constraint to the top. So I'll click the top icon here. So the space that I want from the top, let's just make it 24. And then from the left would also be 24, and the right would be 24. And if you notice here, even though I put a margin of 24 on the left and right, we don't see any space on the left and right. And that is because this image is a big image. But if we want to force it to obey the constraints, we can change this right here from wrap content. So the layout width is going to match the constraints here. There we go. Okay, so now let's add another image to our screen here. Put the image somewhere right here. And we'll select any one of the dice images. I'll select dice 1. And like always, we're going to center it both left and right. And then I'm going to constrain the top to the bottom of the previous image, and then the bottom here to the top of our button. There we go. Okay, great. So everything's looking fine so far. Let's just run our app just to get a feel of what it's going to look like. Okay, so far it looks good. I'm just going to go ahead and stop the app. The only thing I need to do now is to add some functionality to this roll button over here. So first, let's determine the names of these items. For the roll button, the name that was given to it by default is button. I'm just going to leave it as is. And then for our dice image here, the default name that was given to it is image view 2. I'm just going to modify this and call it dice image view. Okay, so this should be fine. Just refactor. Now we're ready to use these items in our code.